Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Swingman podcast. This is a project that I've been wanting to do for a while, purely because of my love for the game of basketball. But I kind of thought that if I was interested in it, maybe some of you guys will be too, and it'll provide an educational experience for some people who don't know a lot about basketball. But in today's episode, me and my co host are going to be talking about All-Star Weekend, some of the massive trades that have happened in the last couple of weeks, and our early predictions on the postseason. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 1 halfway through the season. Before we get started, I just wanted to let my new co-host introduce himself. Go ahead, man.
Hi, I'm John. For those that don't know me, I'm a basketball coach. I've been playing basketball for about half of my life, basically. But yeah, I've known John here for that nine years,
Yeah,
around
nine
about
years.
9 years,
Yeah,
9 years. But yeah, man, yeah.
because I think we actually met. I mean, we met before secondary school. That trip
Yes,
to Isle of
uh,
Wight. But
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah. The first time I actually like got along with you was on the basketball court in
yeah,
tryouts,
yes,
which by the way
yes.
I did not make, but I'm not gonna be salty about that today. We're gonna move on from that. But yeah, no, the reason why I reached out to John was like the first person in my head because like every time we spoke, it was purely about basketball and like
Yeah,
you can tell by not just the way he talks about basketball, but the things he does outside of work and stuff. Like he just said, he's a coach, so he kind of lives and breathes basketball. And
yeah. At the moment, yeah.
we're gonna be covering some really interesting things, and I'm sure you'll love to hear what he has to say. So to kind of kick things off, the All Star Weekend just passed, and a lot of people have mixed emotions about the events that happened that weekend. But I thought the best way to tackle it would be going day by day, seeing what event happened, and we'll just discuss it from there. So we'll start off with the dunk contest. What did you think about it, man?
Has to be, and I'm not the only one to be saying this. Has to be the worst in NBA history, and I think you had a fact about it or a stat about it.
Yeah, so this is one of the more embarrassing stats that happened over the weekend. Apparently, the Dunkers went 7 of 25 in the first round. That's kind of equivalent to 28%. And I don't know whether this is true or false, but I saw a statistic rolling around saying that the dunkers in the contest had an equal amount, if not greater amount, of misses than the shooters in the 3 point contest did. And to me, that kind of shows a lack of preparation. I'm not sure whether that's a judgmental thing to say, but like you could kind of see in the crowd reaction that nobody really cared about the dunk contest because of how mundane the dunks were. I think the one that got the most highlights, I guess, was Cole Anthony, and all he did was put on a pair of Timberlands. His dunk wasn't even that great. Like when you look at the dunk contests that have happened in previous years, like let's take Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine, for example, like it was super electric. The crowd was super involved, and it was fun and it was creative. But here, I didn't necessarily feel that energy, so I just kind of skipped over it really. But I think the distaste for the dunk contest comes from back when Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon competed together. Eventually, Zach did take that trophy home, and Aaron did compete the next year, but he got snubbed by Dwayne Wade, who ultimately, I guess, rigged the contest because he wanted his guy from Miami to win, which is completely unfair. And I understand why big name stars might not want to do that anymore. Like you saw Ja Morant in the press conference say that he'll compete when he wants to. So it's more so how the dunk contest is viewed now. And I think it's been a little bit flawed over the years.
I think it also because a lot of people expect certain players to join in. Like for example, like what you said about Ja Morant. he went on broadcast and said that he's more of an in-game dunker than a kind of. I think loads of guys said it. LeBron said it. Anthony Edwards said it. Ja Morant said it. That as well as the dunks look amazing, they're more of in-game dunkers than being able to put out a 10 or 10 show and do a lot of in between the legs or a lot of e-space stuff. I think the contest itself is a bit it it's very techy in terms of being able to pick the right contestants.
Yeah, completely agree. And when you look at the people who did contest, they were, I don't want to say rookies, but I think a lot of the guys that you saw on the competing roster weren't necessarily used to the stage. So I don't know, in your personal opinion, do you think that nerves kind of played a role in how the event ultimately went down?
I think it was more of a thing where they thought, this is gonna be like layup lines. It's gonna be easy. I can do a cheeky little East Bay, cheeky little 360, and they'll get the points. But I think there's a bit of nerves as well because previous slam dunk contest, obviously, like you got Blake Griffin in 2011, bringing out a whole Kia car to jump over the hood of the car, and
Mm-hmm.
you had Aaron Gordon bringing out Orlando Magic's mascot. You had Victor Oladipo bringing out Chadwick Boseman, and just a lot of. I feel like it's I feel like the people that joined didn't think about the show aspect and the entertainment aspect of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, when you look at past dunk contests, there have been a lot of iconic moments, as you've just kind of mentioned. But they did try in their own sense, like, the Timberland story that I just said about Cole Anthony and him putting on his dad's jersey. Like, that was kind of iconic, but I think there's an element of performance when you do something like that. So when you see the amount of misses that they eventually piled up, you kind of could tell that the crowd were disinterested and it wasn't really worth watching anymore, despite some of the glitz and the glamour that they tried to bring back into the contest.
'Cause I was even surprised that Cole Anthony was even a participant. I mean, no judgmental thoughts towards him. It's just that I knew that he could jump, but I didn't see him as a high flyer. Like Jalen Green, everyone knows he can get up.
Yeah,
Obi Toppin, everyone knows he can get up. Does Connor Anderson? I don't know about him. I didn't
yeah,
I didn't know about it. Like I feel like the participants were just giving out, and whoever said yes was like, yeah, come along.
mm,
It was kind of it was very much wishy-washy, and I mean, hopefully they continue this slam dunk contest because here and there it does cause entertainment value, but it being the main event, I don't think it needs to be a lot more consistent in terms
yeah,
of it being a main event.
yeah. No, 100%. We'll kind of move on to the 3-point contest. That one was a bit of a shocker, in all honesty. Carl Anthony Towns took that trophy home.
First time it didn't have any no second round, no second goals. He went out there, said, "No, I'm going first," and went splash, splash, splash,
Yeah, yeah.
splash. And I think he was the only one to believe it because there were the people he would always say, "Yeah, I'm the best big man shooter," but
Mm.
it was just surprising that he went on a run. Like he nearly broke. I think I'm not too sure. I could be wrong on this. I think that the record for the 3-point contest is 30, and that was done by Steph.
Mm-hmm. But I think the most interesting factor when it comes to this year's 3-point contest is the fact that, one, Carl Anthony Towns is a big man. And I personally have never seen something like that from a big man. But that's kind of another conversation about how the game has changed, and we'll talk about that in a future episode, hopefully. But it's the fact that he went up against worthy competition. When you think about names like Fred Van Vliet, Trey Young, Luke Kennard, Zach Levine, arguably Desmond Bain, But CJ McCollum, like, these guys aren't amateur shooters. They don't shoot low rates of threes, and they're not shooting low percentages either. These guys are, elite shooters, and the fact that he did win it made it all the more interesting. And it's kind of refreshing to see. But I just kind of wanted to ask about the scheduling, because correct me if I'm wrong, the dunk contest comes after the 3 point contest. And we kind of talked about how uninteresting the dunk contest actually came out to be. So, in your opinion, do you think that the NBA should change their scheduling in terms of what events happen when?
I think it would have to depend on who's participating because here and there, sometimes, let's say Steph or Clay ends up going in a contest, it's kind of a done deal
Mm.
in 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 my opinion. Because Steph and Clay, when they shoot, it's just lights out. And then sometimes the dunk contest has decent dunkers, and they're even thinking about including pro dunkers into the mix now, just to make it kind of like a, oh wow, this person can do this. He's not even a pro basketball player,
Mm.
and XYZ. I think because even this year the skills competition was better than, I don't know whether you watched it, but the skills comp was better than dunk contest. It was a lot more entertaining. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think it depend each year on who's participating in each event, because sometimes the dunk contest is better than 3 point contest. There's been years where I would watch 3 point contest and be like, yeah, there's no way this guy is not losing.
Mm.
There's no way this guy is gonna get through. It gets sometimes it was a bit predictable, but this year the 3 point contest was very good. Even last year as well, I remember Steph won it on the last shot. I forgot
Yeah.
who he was against, but I know that Steph won it on the last shot. That's why everyone was going crazy.
Mm-hmm. But kind of moving on to the main event of All Star Weekend, obviously the All Star Game. In my personal opinion, I think it was one of the best All Star games we've seen ever since that rule change. The rule change being each team has to win a quarter, and then there's a target score at the start of the fourth, and the first team to reach that score ultimately wins the game. But the reason why I agree with the rule change so much is the fact that it enticed players to really play defense, and that was something I felt like was missing in the All Star game in previous years. But some of the things that did happen during that game was Steph dropping 50 and almost breaking that record that AD set a while back. But he did kind of break his own record, if you want to call it that. He made 16 threes, which has never been done before, but at the same time, it's an all star game and nobody really plays defense.
Yeah, I think he broke the record for All Star Game threes in the second quarter, because Paul George had it, and I think it was 9, and then Steph just went off in 3 quarters, scored all 15 threes in 3 quarters. That was just crazy. But I think it was very fitting that the two Ohio Cleveland boys, that being LeBron and Steph, showed out in that game. LeBron obviously
I didn't
scoring
even
the
clock
game
that.
winner, and then Steph obviously going for 50.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I didn't even realize that.
it was good.
Mm,
Yeah, and then obviously, as you said, the court is being played where whoever wins, the money goes to whichever side's charity. I think that kind of puts an incentive of charity work into there as well as obviously we all know that each player has all-star bonuses in their contract. So
yeah.
I think it all just makes sense, and it all brings out a bigger game.
Yeah, definitely. I do hope that rule does come to stick around, but we've kind of spoken about everything that's happened over the past weekend, and some of them were entertaining, some of them weren't. But I just wanted to ask, in your personal opinion, do you think that the All Star game has been getting a little bit boring for fans over the years?
I think it's speaking from a UK fan perspective, it's getting it's getting tedious waiting for it. But obviously, the All Star game is not meant to be for. They aimed it at the US fans. They have to, but in terms of it being Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think it is getting a bit tedious because obviously in terms of let's think of the aspect of throughout the whole weekend, it is an experience. It is, but having to go to one event, the next event the next day, next event the next day, and then the main event the next day, I think me personally, from watching last year's, from it being all in one day, they didn't do the Rising Stars challenge because obviously COVID. They had to put in one day. They had the skills and the 3 point contest before the All Star game, and the halftime show was the slam dunk contest. So that being that, I think last year having to just see it in one go was a bit better.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that one. I think it's better to provide fans with an all in one immersive experience of packing all those events in one day, as opposed to spacing it out because the hype dies down and all that stuff. I think it's better to bring it all into one conclusive package. But now that we kind of spoken about All Star Weekend, I kind of wanted to move on to the trade deadline. Obviously, the trade deadline did pass, I believe, 2.5 weeks ago. So the first big trade that I kind of wanted to talk about was CJ McCollum to the New Orleans Pelicans. This trade, I don't really know what to think of it because, yes, I do understand the Portland Trailblazers are in a bit of a sticky situation and it's more of a rebuild mode, if you want to call it that. But now it kind of looks like there's no reason for Damian Lillard to even stay. Like, his backcourt mate is gone. And it didn't really make sense from a front office perspective, if I'm honest. But yeah, man, what do you think about it?
They've been trying to find a package deal for CJ, but there was no package. They got back, I think, a couple draft picks, Josh Hart and Nickel Alexander Walker, who they ended up trading anyways to I forgot where. But I just don't think that it gives any incentive for Dame to. I mean, granted, they're on a winning streak right now. They're on a winning streak, so it
Hmm.
kind of shows a bit of a pro there. But it's just they need to bring someone in to help Dame. I don't think I personally think in terms of Dame's loyalty, be I think 3 years max before he ends up either demanding a trade or not signing back in free agency.
Yeah, because the situation right now in Portland is looking a little bit ugly. And realistically, when it comes to clutch time, Dame is going to need somebody to help him out. And the only guy that I can really think of off the top of my head is Anthony Simons, which, in all fairness, he is doing very well for himself. But, he's going to need other people to help him out. And I don't feel like Josh Hart is the guy to help him out closing out games. But with that being said, I'm really disappointed in where CJ got shipped to. The reason being is we all kind of know who CJ McCollum is as a player. During that time in the bubble, when they were fighting for a playoff spot, he put up numbers on a broken back. And he dedicated so much to the Portland fan base that he deserves to get more than what we actually got. So for me, it was disappointing to see that he ended up on New Orleans instead of a contending team like he really deserves to be on. Because let's face it, New Orleans really isn't going anywhere. Zion is questionable, and CJ has openly expressed that Zion hasn't even reached out to him. So that's a little bit concerning from a fan base standpoint.
The Pelicans definitely won the trade because they paired up a shooter with Brandon Ingram and potentially and hopefully Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I mean, that team right now is currently fighting for the play-in tournament spot. But with Zion there, I feel like this team can really come together and pull something off. It just kind of remains to be seen whether he will join that team. But we'll move on to another trade, Sabonis to the Kings. I personally don't agree with this trade. but I just want to get your thoughts on it first before I talk about mine.
I think he's just trying to bring back the bloody divac era of having that European big man and leading them back to the playoffs.
Hmm.
I think that was the whole point of. I think that was the. I think that's what they were thinking. Let's bring a European center in and see if they can lead us all the way to the playoffs. I mean, I feel like both teams got what they wanted, but in terms of who's won and who lost, the Indiana Pacers have definitely won that trade
Yeah,
because
100%.
they got Tyrese Halliburton, who's been on a tear recently. He's been averaging, I think, 25 points, 8 and 6. I think I'm not too sure, but
Hmm.
it's just yeah. That's for me. That was just a crazy trade because Sabonis was traded to the Pacers. No, was drafted by the Pacers, traded to OKC, back to the Pacers, and now they traded him again to the Kings, which is
Yeah.
it's just crazy. What do you think?
In my opinion, I think yes, the Indiana Pacers do win this trade because, like you said, Tyrese Halliburton is an amazing superstar. He's gonna undoubtedly be an all star one day. And I'm just surprised that they let him go simply because of how much he devoted to the Kings. In a recent interview, he did say that he wanted to be something like a Chris Webber to the Sacramento Kings, basically being that franchise player that can help them back into title contention in Sacramento. And they just shipped him off. So that was a stupid move by the Kings, in my opinion. But I'm very surprised that they let Buddy Hield go. Buddy Hield was one of those guys to me that could really get hot when you needed him the most. And now that he's gone, my only concern with the Kings is how do they space the floor? In terms of their point production right now, all I'm seeing are a bunch of paint scorers. I'm saying this because Harrison Barnes is the only guy that comes to my mind when you talk about effective 3 point shooting, and even then, he's not really that consistent. So, yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward situation for the Kings. And I'm just going to go right off the bat and say this: the Kings, to me, have always been historically known as the team that makes bad move after bad move. We saw this with Isaiah Thomas and eventually DeMarcus Cousins. It's even evident in all of their signings and firings of various coaches over the years. Like, there's clearly something wrong within that front office that they need to address. But in saying that, Sabonis is really doing well in Sacramento. He's averaging about 17.3 points per game. Granted, he's only played 4 games, but still. He's shooting about 57.4% from the field. But the only problem is, throughout the course of his career, he has never ever been a 3 point shooter. And I think that's evident in his statistics. In Indiana, he's averaging about 30% from the perimeter. So that to me is a slight concern because you kind of know the saying, threes are worth more than twos. So where does that scoring come for the Kings?
That's the thing. It's a new era. Like I'm not trying to place it with Steph Curry because recently I don't know whether you watched it. He went on Knucklehead's podcast and he was saying don't blame me for this because I didn't tell them to put that shot. But anyways, um, it's a new era and I think the Kings didn't think about that. I mean, De'Aaron Fox can be a shooter if he chooses to practice it, but he's not. He's simply a pick and roll downhill kind of player. They've got Harrison Barnes, who again consistent shooter, but is going towards the end of his kind of peak kind of era kind of for him. And they got rid of Buddy Hield, who was their shooter. Tyrese Halliburton as well was one of their main shooters. It's just now does Sabonis now bring back the threes, or they now have to find a panic in the buyout market, or just basically say forget about this season. Let's try and get a shooter in the off season. And I don't
Hmm.
think the free agency market this year isn't that good. But I think there has to be a reason why they must have traded their shooters. I think Buddy Hield was on the way out anyways. I have a feeling if I have a feeling that he won't be staying in Indiana that long. I feel like he's gonna go back to California but be in the Lakers. I feel like it's gonna happen. I think that's gonna come to fruition, but it just doesn't. it doesn't the Sacramento side of things. It just doesn't in this era of basketball. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It
100%
really
agreed.
doesn't.
I really don't know what they were thinking there, but we'll move on to the final trade, the big one. Everybody knows about this one. Harden to the 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons. This one,
Yes.
I mean, you kind of heard the rumors spiraling around,
Yeah.
talk shows and all that stuff, all talking about it. But personally, I never thought it
Yeah.
was going to come true. Um,
Yeah.
Harden did say kind of in the press conference that Philly was his first choice when he asked out
Mm,
of Houston. But
yeah.
to me, it didn't seem like it was ever going to happen because Harden is too big of an asset piece for somebody like
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, who hasn't historically produced when the lights are the brightest, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah, what do you kind of think about that trade? I know where I stand on it. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but I just wanted to see what your opinions were.
I think both teams in aspects won the trade. They got rid of players that didn't want to be there. In terms of going into the future, I think Philadelphia have built towards it. Same with the Nets. The Nets have, as we know, have bought out Goran Dragic and is now joining them. They've now got whether they start Patty or Goran is up to them. Obviously, they got Kyrie Irving on a part time 16-hour contract basis.
Yeah.
They're I think in terms of that, the Philadelphia 76ers definitely have won. But in
Mhm.
terms of let's say NBA scraps all the COVID rules now, you don't have to be vaccinated to play. The Brooklyn Nets have won in terms of talent and being able to space the floor and have shooters and have the all round kind of starting five. But in terms of now, with the COVID rules, with everything, with the requirements of playing in each state, Philadelphia has definitely won. It's just that they both want to get rid of. I'm just shocked that James Harden didn't want to stay for longer.
Yeah, this is my thing about James Harden. I might catch a lot of flack for saying this, but I think he's one of the most laziest players in the NBA. Hear me out. The
Yeah, yeah,
reason why I think he is the laziest player in the NBA is because when things get
yeah,
rough, he can't he can't bear the weight on his shoulders. I think that when Harden initially joined the Nets, he met up with KD and Kyrie to say, "Look, I did my thing in Houston. Give me this ring, and I'll be
yeah,
your third man."
yeah,
And then when Kyrie went out due to personal reasons, and then again with the whole COVID restrictions and all that stuff, and then KD obviously goes down this
yeah,
season. I think he realized, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought. Let me join
yeah,
who I wanted to join in the first place, that team being 76ers with
yeah,
Embiid.
yeah,
But now that he's putting on an MVP performance, might I add, that's more of a guaranteed championship than KD and Kyrie combined. I don't know whether you agree with that, but that's my take.
I didn't think about it that way, but I actually agree with it because Kyrie, as we said, part-time contract. We don't know when he's gonna. In the playoffs, he won't even be allowed to play at home. And obviously, in the finals, if they get all the way to the finals, that's the home court advantage is big.
Yeah,
Like it is massive. It is massive. But in terms of just that, it makes because Joel Embiid could be MVP. I completely agree with you because Harden tried doing it in Houston with Jalen, with Chandler Parsons and Dwight Howard. Didn't work out. Dwight left, Jalen left, and then he ended up trying to do it by himself. Couldn't do it. Bringing in Westbrook with PJ Tuck with Eric Gordon, basically trying to implement small ball. Played the Lakers, didn't work out. Everyone ended up getting traded or just leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Westbrook then went on to the Wizards. Eric Gordon wanted out, didn't play for a serious time, but basically just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna play." James Harden ended up leaving towards the Nets, and as you said, I think they were just talking and said, "Yeah, give me this ring,"
Yeah.
and COVID restrictions come into place. Kyrie can't play, and they end up only playing, I think it is 16 games, and their record was 13-3, which again says a lot that if they just push through it, maybe they would have won a title. But I think now going to Philadelphia, it's now an easier route for James to be like, all right, this guy is playing MVP basketball. I can help him and just pass him the ball, and I'll just be here for a spot up or whenever he needs ISO, and that's it.
Exactly. And I think the thing that people don't really realize is when you look at James Harden, he isn't really the same player that he used to be. Some might argue that it was a fat suit or whatever it was that made him force his way out of Houston, but like the reality of it is he's not getting any younger. He tore his quad in that playoff series against the Bucks, which ultimately led them to this point, I think, because that's when he had to start carrying the load whilst his two main guys were out. And that kind of injury really affects a player in terms of how long they can keep up with the pace of the league. Like, yeah, in all fairness, he did dunk the ball in one of the first games of the season or whatever it was, but that to me doesn't prove how reliable he can be health wise. So when you look at the depleted Nets team that they are right now, Harden does have a lot to carry on his shoulders, and in all fairness, if I was trying to win a championship, I don't think I would do that either. I wouldn't bother wasting my time with a team that I know isn't going to get it done without two or three main pieces in that lineup. So from a ring chasing standpoint, he made a good career decision. But the only thing I don't agree with is the competitive nature of basketball. And that's where I feel like he got lazy.
It just brings. I mean, as we both said, they got rid of two divas that didn't want to be there, so
Yeah.
they left.
I also wanted to discuss a potential problem that I see with the Brooklyn Nets trade in terms of Ben Simmons. The main point being, when have you ever seen Ben Simmons shoot a 3 pointer in his career? Apart from that one time that he made it because he had to force the ball up to avoid getting a turnover. And the main problem that I see with this is his ability to space the floor. Yes, I understand that you do have two elite scorers in KD and Kyrie, and you've also got Seth Curry on your team now, so that's a big addition. But the reality is Ben Simmons is really going to be hanging out. But the reality is Ben Simmons is only going to be hanging out in that dunker spot. And when the defense collapses, Ben's man is going to help on whoever's driving into the paint. So paint scoring goes out of the window. Do you really think that his man will respect him as a shooter? No, of course not.
That's the thing that, and I feel like Brooklyn have done a good job in terms of trading for the right people. But when it comes to like these players are athletic and being able to help on defense, they get faster and faster every single year. And if they come across a good defensive team, is done. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they come to a team that is fit enough to help off the man and then rotate and all that kind of stuff, it's gonna be hard for Ben, KD, Kyrie, Seth, Andre Drummond, Blake, Lamarcus, all of these guys to play with each other because okay, I'm getting double team past him. Oh, he's not a shooter, he's gonna drive in. Oh, he's stuck. Pass out to a shooter. Now he's covered. He's covered. What's gonna happen? It's now gonna become tough shot after tough shot after tough shot, which completely fine. KD's there. KD is one of the best, if not the best scorer in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just now getting them to play together. Steve Nash has a tough job in terms of just doing that.
Yeah, 100% agree. The only reason why I really feel like Brooklyn won this trade was because of Seth Curry. And like I said before, it was a great, great pickup. But if you look at Ben Simmons in the last playoff series, my guy was damn near scared to shoot the basketball because he was afraid to get on the line. And to me, Steph Curry is more of an effective scorer between him and Ben right now, simply because he's more versatile than him. I think what we need to see from Ben, and hopefully this does happen because of the change of scenery, is his willingness to improve as a basketball player. Over the years that he's been in the league, let's take away, his rookie season injury, he has not displayed, to me at least, the slightest bit of improvement. And when you're getting paid millions and billions of dollars to play a sport, as a front office, I would expect to see year on year improvement, which he has not done. So let's just hope for the sake of Brooklyn that he does improve on his free throw shooting and he does try to expand on a 3 point shot. He doesn't even have to hit it consistently, just enough to prove to fans that he's willing to work hard to get a championship. That's it.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's just tough for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, so now that we've spoken about the three major trades that have kind of happened, I kind of want to go through some honorable mentions. We won't go
Yeah,
into depth into the effectiveness of their trade, but
yeah,
Porzingis is now on the Wizards and Rondo
yeah.
is on the Cavs. What do you think about both of those trades?
I think Porzingis going to the Wizards was just getting rid of money, and they needed a big man because Montrez got traded to the Hornets.
Hmm.
Um, Rondo going to the Cavs, I think that's a mentorship role. Kind of, they have two up and coming point guards. Maybe I think one more. I'm not too sure, but they obviously have Colin Sexton that's been there for since 20 whenever LeBron left to go Lakers. I think 2018 or 2019. Um, and they have obviously Darius Garland who just played his first All Star game. I think it's more of a mentorship role. It's more of a as a guard, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. It's important to watch film, yada yada yada. And I think that's the reason why. I mean, Rondo, talented player out of his prime,
Hmm.
but will perform when he can perform.
Yeah, but I think that was a stupid move by the Lakers simply because when you look at the championship that they won the year that Kobe died, um,
Yeah.
he was an instrumental role to that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And to think that Westbrook is even near comparable to Rajon Rondo in terms of what he brings to the table is a joke. Like Westbrook, we're gonna get onto that in another episode, hopefully. But Westbrook is an absolute joke for the Lakers, and Rondo, he cares about the game in terms of playing the right way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so he really is that floor general, and good for him. He got out of the Lakers. Good on Rajon Rondo for leaving the Lakers' dramatic situation and moving on to, might I add, a title contender in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fair enough, they do have a lot of young guys, but I think that was a good move career wise in terms of helping those young guys develop and progress and even play a similar role that he did on the Lakers to try and compete for that chip. So we'll just have to see how that turns out. But the final trade, or trades should I say, that I want to discuss are the Utah Jazz trading away Joe Ingles after his devastating ACL tear. And the same with the Cavaliers. They traded away Ricky Rubio in return for Karis LeVert after he suffered the same injury. So I just wanted to ask, your background in sports science, you know how serious an ACL tear is. It's alongside injuries like Achilles tears and what have you. So with that being said, I do understand that the NBA is a business and of course they have to flourish in their own ways and stuff, but do you think that players have become more expendable in the last few years every time they get injured? And does it really matter now how much time somebody devotes to a team.
I think it depends who the player is. If it's someone like a LeBron James, like a Kevin Durant, like a Steph Curry, I think it depends on where they. I depends. It depends on who they are and who the team is. Because let's take Dallas for example. They kept Dirk for all 2021 years. They kept Kobe for all 2021 years. Um, other the way we went to Bulls, when ended up going back to Miami and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think depending if depending on the role on the team, if you are a simple role player or they know that we can he isn't a special player, we can find this type of player somewhere else, you're expendable. Like
Mm-hmm.
Westbrook, yeah, as much of a good player and maybe Hall of Fame career that he has, he is. You can find a Westbrook anywhere else.
Yeah.
You can find a Westbrook on other teams, but you can't find an AD or a LeBron. You can't find a Kevin Durant or a Kyrie. You can't find a Kawhi or a Paul George. It's just it depends on the role as a team. If you aren't, it's like getting to the NBA. If you aren't a special player, no way you're gonna stay at the team or even get to the NBA. You need to be special as hell that they can't. They'll think they look at you and be like, I can't find you anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find you anywhere else. You're not getting traded. You're staying here with me.
100%. And I think that's the whole idea behind what a franchise player really is. Let's take somebody like Steph, for example. I don't think I could ever see him in another jersey apart from a Warriors one because he is the Warriors. The same way that Kobe was the Lakers and Dirk was the Mavericks. They are defining franchise players who will ultimately stay with the team, fingers crossed, for the rest of their career. But the point I was just trying to make is it's kind of sad to see that a player like Joe Ingles, who is so pivotal in their movement towards 3-point shooting, was traded away after a devastating injury. And as far as I'm aware, he doesn't really get injured all that often. Yeah, fair enough, he is kind of out of his prime and whatever, whatnot. But he is still a reliable 3-point shooter. And in today's era, that's really what you need. So to see him get shipped away after that really kind of put the NBA into perspective for me as to how it's run as a business. Because I mean, we've seen it with players like Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose being one of the bigger examples. Franchises are too quick to give up on their players, despite them being super loyal to the organization and the fan base. But yeah, man, before we wrap this up, I just wanted to get your early season predictions on what's happening this postseason. What's your take?
I think in terms of let's go with the West first. I think in terms of the West, I think Golden State will take the 1 seed and Phoenix will have a little bit of drop due to Chris Paul's injury and hit the 2nd seed. And below that, I think Memphis will take the 3rd. After the 3rd, it's all to play for. I think it's all the way down to the 9th team to the play-on spots. Those teams right there, any team in the West can make a run. That's how talented the West is.
Mm-hmm.
Any team can make a run and go from the 9th seed all the way to the 4th seed to the 5th seed. And but I think in terms of coming out of the West, it's between the top 3 seeds right now, which is Phoenix, Golden State, and Memphis Grizzlies. In terms of the East, I think it's either gonna be Philadelphia, Chicago, when healthy, if Lonzo comes back, and Caruso. Hopefully, Caruso can come back. And if the Nets can get it together, then I think those 3 teams will probably come out of the East. One of those 3 teams. What do you think?
All right, so as far as the teams I think are in the West, I agree with you on those top three picks. In terms of who's going to play in the finals, though, I might have to give it to Golden State. The only reason why I'm saying that is because I think Clay has been waiting for this opportunity ever since he got injured in that series against Kawhi and the Raptors. but their only downside is defense. And their defensive anchor in Draymond Green is not there right now, and you can kind of see their defensive flaws. Draymond Green is essentially more of the Warriors than Steph Curry is as of right now. It's kind of clear to see that. So yeah, I'm hoping that the Warriors come out and make it to the finals. When it comes to the Eastern Conference, for me, because of what we discussed, it's the 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, the 1-2 punch, if Harden
Yeah.
performs the way that he does, it's a Shaq and Kobe. Like, it's a Shaq and Kobe deal. And that's no disrespect to what Shaq and Kobe did, but
That's a big claim. That's a big
yeah,
claim.
yeah. But I think it has great potential. So yeah, the last thing before we go, who's taking that chip home?
For nostalgia, for kind of what I want to see, how far they've come is the Bulls, but injuries are an absolute pain.
Mm.
I would love to see the Bulls win one this year. I would love
Yeah,
to
I
see the
think
Bulls win this year.
DeMar and Levine have kind of proven their worth as like a dynamic duo and stuff like that. Even Levine has gone out and said, they're the best duo in the league, which is not even debatable at this point. They are the best duo in the
Big
league.
take.
And their record
Yeah,
says so.
yeah.
So as much as it kills me to say that, because I am a Golden State fan at heart, I just think there's something special going on in Chicago. And if everybody returns fully healthy, they're going to be a tough team to stop. But we'll just have to wait and see how everything goes. I, for one, am definitely excited to see what happens towards the end of the season. And I think one of the most interesting things that have happened over the last, I'd like to say, 3 years of us watching the NBA playoffs is that it's starting to become a little bit more of an open playing field. Obviously, Toronto won that 2019 series, which I'm still salty about. And I would argue that if Clay and KD don't go down, we take that one easily. Screw you, Toronto fans. But yeah, the Bucks obviously won the title last year, and it seems like the East has really taken their opportunity at balancing the power within the league, because it was kind of obvious that the Western Conference was way too stacked, way too dominant for the East to ever contend. And I guess that's partly due to the trades that have gone on in the last couple of years, but I feel like the NBA is the most balanced it's ever been in probably the last 5 years. And as a fan, it's really exciting to watch. But this is going to wrap up the first episode, and I just wanted to thank you for being a part of the project. We're definitely going to be talking about a lot of interesting things down the road, so hopefully you guys stay tuned. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to like and subscribe, and also click that bell icon to be notified about every new video that gets released. But until then, take care and goodbye.